Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt Show, Darrow Kirkpatrick, who's an author. He's a software engineer. But most importantly, and what we're going to talk about today, is that he is an investor who lived frugally, but not insanely, and he invested successfully and retired at age 50. So he wrote this book and has a popular blog about retirement, and that's what we're going to talk about. So for those of you who are over 50, give it up. You may as well just shut off now because there's nothing we can do for you. But anyone under 50, Darrell, did I have this wrong? Help me out here. Can people even a little bit over 50 still retire early?
Yes, it's quite manageable.
All right, so I blew the introduction, but so tell us some of the things we need to know if we really want to talk seriously about retiring early.
Well, there are a few points that really help me. I guess the first thing is just being aware of your finances. It's really hard to become financially independent if you're not aware of where the money's coming in and going out. And there are a few things in terms of frugality that I think are very helpful. I can get into those if you'd like.
Before we get to the frugality side of it, let's talk more about the really the benefits, because a lot of people often I'll tell clients who are, my day job is I'm a financial advisor. The radio gig is only, once or twice a week. But I'll tell clients who are talking about retiring early or just talking about retiring, and I'll tell them, you shouldn't be retiring from something. You've got to be retiring to something. And
Definitely.
That's like a real shock for people. So what really are the benefits of retiring early?
Yeah, we're really using that word to mean financial independence. And there are traditional benefits like, yes, spend more time with family and travel and volunteer and so on. But it doesn't mean not working, in my view. It's having the ability to work when and how you want without worrying about a paycheck. And that's really added to the quality of my life.
So, okay, so maybe we should back up a little bit. Tell me the story. How did you get to succeed this way?
Well, I was a software engineer, so I was a high earner, but not ridiculous. I'm not a Silicon Valley millionaire or anything like that. So I did have a high income that I could sock away for about 10 years, really. And that was very helpful. But we also lived modestly. We stayed in the same house for 17 years. We didn't upgrade houses and vehicles as I got raises and bonuses. And those things add up over time.
And so what made you decide then to call it quits at 50?
Well, I had done programming and software management for a long time. The environment became more corporate, more rigid. It was less creative for me. And so it was just a good time to set out and do something different. I wanted to work on my writing. The blog grew very naturally from that. And it's just been an exciting, interesting time of life, being able to kind of work in my own way on my own schedule.
So just to clear some of these cynical questions off the table, so we're all on the same page.
Sure.
Did you marry money? Did you get an inheritance? You win the lottery? Anything like that?
My wife is a public school teacher in Tennessee, so that should answer that question. She did get health benefits that helped us out a great deal, but no, not a lot of money from that direction. I owned a tiny part of the business, and when I sold it, it was enough to pay off our 3-bedroom home in Tennessee, so it was not big bucks. But I'm grateful to have I did have a high salary, a 6-digit salary for around 10, 15 years, something like that, and that did help us sock away the money, but we had to not spend it in order to do that.
So when you socked it away, what'd you do with it?
Well, early on, I made the usual investing mistakes. I worked with a broker. I bought and sold stuff too quickly. I tried to identify hot stocks, but not before too long, I fell in the camp of passive index investing, and most of our money wound up at Vanguard in a boring set of index stock and bond funds, and generally just tried to leave it alone and feed it as much as possible every month from my paycheck.
So what years was that? That was that 10-year period when it sounds like was the critical period. Was that like the greatest bull market ever?
No. I mean, the dot-com crash was right in the middle of that time, and the Great Recession in 2008, I retired in 2011. So there was a lot of bad stuff going on during that time. But I just stayed the course, and if anything, I was able to contribute more when the market was down. And that was hard, but I knew there was no way I was going to get to financial independence if I panicked and sold out. So I just stuck with the plan.
Oh. All right, so the sticking with the plan, that's something that really speaks to me. I often talk to people about planning. In fact, the metaphor that I've used here, in fact, on this show, is based on some research that I did about how the strategies of chess can be applied to investing.
Oh, yeah, great.
And in fact, I did research with a woman named Susan Polgar, who was a world chess champion and the first woman to win the title of Grandmaster ever. And we were talking about the same strategies she used to be successful on the chessboard and how all of them seem to apply. And in fact, several of the things you've already said ring true based on what she and I had discovered, not the least of which is have a plan and stick to it through thick and thin. Don't say, oh my gosh, the market crashed, I guess this was a bad idea, but rather, keep working on it. How did you learn to do that? Or get the guts to do that, I guess?
Well, I guess my personality kind of disposes me that way. Being an engineer, I have a civil engineering degree, so I'm used to the idea of making design, making a plan, and not patching it up at the last minute. But I just made some dumb mistakes early on, fortunately with small amounts of money. I bet on some .com stocks. I watched them go way up. I watched them go way down, and I sold them at a loss or for nothing more than I made. I gradually realized that trying to figure out what direction the market was going just didn't serve me. And I was much better off saving as much as I possibly could, keeping my expenses very, very low, and just being consistent.
We're talking with Darrow Kirkpatrick, who is not a prophet, and he did not have inside information, and he did not get millions of dollars from somewhere else. He just did the right things for over and over again over a period of years, but not over 50 years. People talk about long-term investing, but really over a much shorter period of time that led him to be able to retire at age 50. Now, Darrell, the other side of this, and again, the reason I'm not diving in right now about what was your investment strategy, because it sounds to me like you had a pretty normal, basic investment strategy, not to try to pick winning stocks. But how did you then, when you were earning such a big salary, how did you find the wherewithal not to spend it on improving your lifestyle?
Well, we're lucky in some ways, my wife and I. We have pretty modest tastes. We enjoy outdoor sports and camping and simple road trip vacations. Those things give us a lot of pleasure and fun. My best memories are basically family camping trips. And so we just didn't have expensive tastes. And same with vehicles and housing. We were happy in the place we were 20 years ago, and we just stayed put there as I got raises and bonuses. And that let us put more on the bottom line to savings.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the mistakes either you made or you've seen people make that maybe we could learn from?
Well, in terms of investing, again, I mentioned trying to pick stocks and trying to time things. It just didn't work out well for me. In terms of expenses, some of the things that I think are important, I mentioned the houses and cars, these big ticket items. Also, I talk about my rule of 300, which is keep an eye out for recurring payments. And the 300 multiplier comes from they're 12 months in a year. You need roughly 25 times your annual expenses in order to retire. So 25 times 12 is 300. That's the multiplier times any monthly expense that you've got to save up in order to provide that income in retirement.
Wait, hold on. Let's go over that math once more. I know.
Sure.
Give us an example, like a real live person.
Okay. All right. So what we're talking about here is gym memberships, subscriptions, maintenance, anything you pay monthly. When you do the math, you need about 300 times that amount saved up in order to provide for that expense in retirement. So anything you've committed to on a monthly basis is a very big ticket item when it comes to financial independence. You really need about 300 times that. And so keep an eye out for regular expenses. They're tough to pay for once you don't get a paycheck.
So are you suggesting people not have these sort of regular expenses, or
take a very hard look. Anything you commit to pay monthly, just take a very hard look that you're getting the benefits out of it, because it's actually a great deal of money you need to save up to provide for that.
So if someone, let's say, spends $3,000 a month, that's his monthly, he owns his house, and that's his monthly outflow to pay for, food and video games. Right. He spends $3,000 a month. So based on this model, you're saying he'd need $900,000 in order to retire. Yeah. Does that matter how old he is, or is that just at any age?
Well, yeah, there are issues with the length of your retirement, how much longer. That the original studies that pointed to the 4% rule, which is where the 25 multiplier comes from. Those were 30-year studies. So I don't know if it's too beneficial to get into those fine details, but it's a rough rule of thumb for how much money you've got to save up to provide for a monthly expense.
Mm-hmm. Darrell, we're just about out of time, but tell us about your book, Retiring Sooner.
Sure. That was the first book I wrote, and it's really addressed to people in early to mid-career, how to live more frugally, how to increase your income, how to manage your money so that you get to financial independence sooner. And then I've just come out with my second book called Can I Retire Yet?, which is really addressed to people late in career, near retirement. And it's all the issues around making that decision. Do I have enough? Do I have health insurance? What am I going to do with my time? It's a broad look at all the issues that someone is going to be facing when they have to make that decision.
Okay, so how can people find these books and follow you as well?
Great. Yeah, the books are on Amazon. They're in paperback and Kindle. Again, the first one's Retiring Sooner. The second's Can I Retire Yet? And that's the name of my blog, caniretireyet.com. And I write there a couple times a month.
Okay, well, we will put links to all of that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Darrow Kirkpatrick, thanks so much for your time.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.